Hello, welcome to the 22nd day of October 2025. And boy, is it dark. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live video exercise that I do each and every day, a little bit after waking up. Well, actually, it's quite a bit after waking up. I get up at 4, it's 5:30 now. I do this exercise to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with any noteworthy challenges or opportunities that I met. I ready myself for the day and I plan for death and I go over my creed. Let's see if I can do something about this light. Just a second. I have another candle right here. Hold on. I already have two candles going. Maybe this will help a little bit. Oh, it does help a little bit. That's good. Yeah. 3 candles now. That's what it takes. I wonder if it's that light back there that's, doing the. What if I was to move there like that a little bit? That might be a little bit better. Yeah, because I think that light there might be kind of, grabbing the grabbing the thing. Hey, Michael Littlejohns, it's your 28th birthday. Happy birthday to you. Yay. Congratulations. Hopefully many, many more to go. Hello, Erica. You're hoping it's a PEF day for me. Thank you. I hope so too. I'm trying to integrate activities that lend itself to more PEF experiences, and that's one of the subjects of today's reflection that I'll be talking about in just a second. All right, so that's by way of who I am. For the new subscribers, welcome. I also this is let you know this is a journal entry that I do every day. So as such, I don't have it's directed more towards internal reflection, consideration of the last 24 hours to try to improve my life by considering in the last 24 hours that I've lived and how I did, where I did well and where I did poorly, so that I can learn from the first and improve and change from the second. As such, I might talk about stuff that might make some people feel uncomfortable, like death. So don't be surprised if I go there. I pretty reliably will. Sometimes briefly, sometimes longer. And finally, before I get started, huge thank you to my subscribers on YouTube, my the viewers, and my members on YouTube, and my supporters on Patreon. I really do appreciate all of you being out there. And Evelyn, I just got your note, and so I'll be looking into that this first thing this morning. Thank you for letting me know. Sorry for any inconvenience that causes. All right, let's carry on. So, take a sip of my coffee. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain, but there's a strong and steady rain today, and it's a cold rain, and it's probably going to be continuing all day. So, most of my day will probably be indoors, with the exception of dog walks. So, under the heading of last 24 hours, I have one note here and a couple of subnotes. The note is a mindful walk, speaking of, PEF. And in parentheses, it says no video. Sometimes I have to kind of interpret my notes. So, a mindful walk, in parentheses, no video, and then two subnotes, a few simple photos, and then it says shared on one platform, X. So, what this means is, in the afternoon, I have begun taking Rudy out for long walks. This is not a dog walk. We take the dogs for a walk in the morning, another one at lunch, and another one in the evening after dinner. But this is more of just a walk for me to get more exercise, and for Rudy to have fun, enjoy me. He really likes it. I've got that nice dog stroller. Although most of the time he's become a very ambitious little boy, and he's walking beside me, and I carry the dog stroller. But the dog stroller is really helpful for the return trip, because we can wander far afield, and then when it's time to come back, I can just, because he's a slow walker, I can just toss him in the dog carrier, which he loves, and we'll zip on home, and it's a really well made in stable dog care with big wheels. It's not like this thing that it's not like a baby stroller. It's meant to actually be a trailer on a bicycle, so you can imagine how sturdy that is. So that's what we do. Um, Once in a while on the nice days, we're starting to increasingly do it more and more. Yesterday was interesting because I deliberately decided to not make a retiring in Japan video yesterday. And I did that because, well, for one thing, my mind is a little overwhelmed with the situation back home in America. And maybe distracted is a good word for it too. But it kind of a good type of distraction. It's like it's the same kind of distraction. It's the same kind of feeling that um, a man might feel when his wife is about to give birth to a child. And is it here, is it here, what's happening, what's the next, what's the news, all that stuff. Something's going on. Kind of you're kind of involved in it from a distance. I'm thinking the old 1950s image of all the husbands in the paternity waiting room, um, or the maternity ward of the hospital, waiting for their news from the doctor or nurse to burst in to say, it's a girl or it's a boy, right? That's the same kind of anxiety that I feel right now. If anxiety probably is the right word regarding the situation, things are happening there. They're stable. Um, I stand ready to go at a moment's notice if needed. So far, that hasn't been the case. And you can imagine, like, in that kind of a circumstance, that some of the superfluities. Hold on while I get another candle. This one's about to go out here. Hold on just a second. I think that is the right word, superfluity. Some of these superfluous is another way to say the same word. Um, some of the seemingly superfluous or extra or bonus, maybe that's a better word. Superfluous sounds like it's over the top, right? Not necessary. Doing the Return in Japan video series is like it's like a bonus thing in my life. It's been a centerpiece for sure. But when something like the situation rears its head, not so much. This video is not like that. This video is a very important part of my life. I look forward to this every day. I take these careful notes throughout the day to ready myself for this moment when I can recalibrate and prepare. It's like I've said many times, it's like free diving in the ocean. You go down, that's the day through the living, swimming through the kelp down, 5 meters down, whatever it is. And then when you come up to breathe at the surface, rest at the surface for a little bit, recalibrate, look down with the snorkel out so you can breathe at where we've just been and think about it and prepare for the next descent. That's what this video is. So this is not superfluous, but right turn in Japan kind of is. So I kind of stopped it, but I also had kind of an ulterior motive. More and more, I've been trying to exercise that what's become almost a cliche concept of mindfulness. It's something that a lot of people work on, and it's a wonderful thing. By saying it's cliche, I don't mean to dismiss it in any way. Being mindful is a superpower. I'm not very good at it, but I want to be better. And taking a more deliberate walk with Rudy, changing the focus from, I thought, well, as long as I'm not making a retiring in Japan video episode, as long as I'm not going out looking for interesting things to raise the camera and look at, maybe I can make my walk with Rudy more of a meditative, mindful exercise in mindfulness. So I was doing a couple of things. For example, we were walking, and I wanted to get to a deliberate neighborhood that I knew would be very an interesting place. So we walked very direct to that place, and that took us half an hour to walk to that neighborhood. And then once we were there, we began. And it was an area by a river, not this river, a different river, the next valley over. That's why it took me 30 minutes to walk there. and where there's kind of a footpath that meanders along, beautiful old houses and trees, and it's a newer area for me. I don't spend a lot of time there, so I don't know it as well as I do this neighborhood. And when we got there, I was doing, some mindful exercises like going slowly. For one thing, I was doing, I was letting Rudy lead the way, stopping, sniffing all he wants, and not pulling him along. Just if he when we got to a crossroads, I let Rudy choose which road to take. And when Rudy would stop and would do his sniffing, I was doing things like changing my focus, looking at something close, and then looking at something far away, and then coming back at something closer, and back in something far away, which put kind of a three-dimensionality to the landscape. And already the slow motion of my walk, the slow and deliberate breathing that I was doing, and now the attention back and forth to different things kind of has this grounding effect. The other thing I did was I would look at something of interest, like a piece of water in the river that was swirling in a little whirlpool, and say, "This is real." And then I would look up at the tree and I would see the bamboo swaying in the distance on the mountaintop. Say, "This is real too." There are many such mindfulness exercises that one can do. And I'm beginning to collect these exercises and keep them in my back pocket to use at a lot of different times. I did that for this whole exercise for about maybe 45 minutes, walking up and then back down the river. And then Rudy and I put Rudy in the stroller and we made a bee's line return back to the house in time for his dinner at 5 p.m. So this experience is the subject of my note here under the last 24 hours. Although it's worthwhile to note that I was working hard on the situation, fortifying my communications and plans, preparing, readying myself in case I need to go. That didn't even warrant a bullet point here. It was so to the point. But this mindful walk really I did find it interesting. I didn't make any videos, but I did, as the subnotes say, I did take a couple of simple photos, and I only shared them on the X platform. Kind of a further refinement of simplicity, something that I've been contemplating for quite a while now. Is the seemingly excessive amount of platforms that I operate on. There's Facebook, my profile page, my Facebook page, softypapa. There's my Instagram page. Uh, there's LinkedIn, my YouTube, and X. Of all of those, the two that seem to be the best places are X and the YouTube page. Probably altogether would be YouTube. If I really do boil this down to simplicity, YouTube would probably be the place I should really spend most of my time. Not even X. Although there's a kind of a different X is a different thing. Each of these platforms offers a community that's very different. Facebook profile is like my family reunion page. That's where the people that I've known, the real people that I've known in my life. I mean, what I mean by real is that by real people is the people that actually in my life that I could touch and feel and shake hands with and hug and have and reunions and a few family, but mostly people that are like family to me that come out that came deep into the life throughout the course of the life. That's where we keep up there. It's a good and useful place. It's my most grounded platform. It's the place where all my blog posts start because for some reason knowing you're going to post in front of family has a different feel to it in a way. And for me, it's not a restrictive feel. It's a catalyzing feel. Facebook Softy Papa page just feels like just that, like a. It's just a duplicate place. There's no emotion involved in that at all. X though is before I come to X, Instagram is just like the Facebook Softy Papa page. There's nothing to it. It's just it's like plastering a flyer on a billboard on a telephone pole. It's as impersonal as that. I think I've just answered myself some questions here, huh? So much for Instagram, so much for my Facebook Softy Papa page, um, so much for LinkedIn for the same matter. Throw that one as well. Let me make a note of that. Just a second. This is an important note. That would be a big change. I'm not ready to do it, but I'm making note of it. Good. It says my note says goodbye Facebook softypapa page, goodbye Instagram, and goodbye LinkedIn. That would really tighten the ship up a lot. If I really, really had courage, I would say goodbye X as well, and just focus on YouTube. However, X is different. Um, X is, I don't know why it's so different, but it's the community of the people like me. The people that are on X are others like myself. Those of and I imagine all of you. I think all of you would be a great fit on that platform. The ones that I interact of you that I interact with regularly. They're the people. If I was going to invite, if I was going to have a cocktail party, and I just wanted the most intimate crowd for the most fascinating conversation, it would be the X group for sure. The regulars that I know there, and of course all of you as well. And that's why I say I think you'd be a good match over there. Uh, and it's hard to give that up. I don't know why X is so different, and I won't go into their characteristics because I'll butcher. I'll do a bad job of it if I try to explain to you why that community is so different. But it is a different place, profoundly different, and I won't give it up because that would be like giving up my college friends. That's I will go so far as to say that the people on X are just like the friends that I had in college. You know, fascinating, energetic, engaged, challenging, um, very smart. Um, the kind of people that when they leave their criticisms or critique, it's stuff that really has an impact, that really causes me to shake my head and say, what was I thinking? Why? Because a lot of the comments that I get on other platforms are due to do do more to people expressing their own selves, right? You know what I mean? I've said this many times before that a lot of social media comments have nothing to do that people leave on my content have nothing to do with me. They're just you know projecting whatever that is in their world, sharing stories of their from their life, or projecting whatever thoughts they have that reflect their own internal whatever's going on within inside of them. They rarely have anything to do with me except on X. X is because there are people who can do this. There are people who can hear what someone says, digest it, and then say something back that is more like building a sandcastle together than building two separate sandcastles. You know what I mean, right? Um, on Facebook, it's like I'm building a sandcastle, and then someone leaves a comment because they're building a sandcastle over there, and their comment has everything to do with the sandcastle they're building. Has nothing to do usually, except for the fact that they're both sandcastles, right? On X, though, people leave comments. It's like they're like they've reached over with a pile of sand and they're saying, "Have you considered squeezing a bit of this liquidy sand on this right here?" And it drips out of their hand, and it kind of constructs into my sandcastle. And I go, "Oh, wow! I didn't realize that rampart could hold that there. Man, that's a great addition. That's what X is like. It's an amazing place. I don't know why it's like that. Um, maybe I do have an idea. X is a complicated platform to understand. Facebook is easy. You sign up, you start posting, you got a wall, you see what the X is complicated. I didn't do X. I had an account from years ago, and I didn't do it for more than a decade because I would get in there and I go, "How do you read this? What is this? What's going on? I don't know what's happening. Why do comments look like posts? Which is a weighty thing on that's a significant thing in its own right. On Facebook, you can leave a comment, and in a way, you're you're under the umbrella of the original poster, right? And so you can kind of like, well, that's an interesting post. I got something to say about that. And you leave a comment, and it's under that umbrella. Your folks on your timeline don't see that comment. On X, if you leave a comment, that's the equivalent of leaving a post. And so your comment winds up on the front page of your timeline. That means that what you say, that's the difference between hearing someone say something and then walking over and whispering your response in their ear. That's Facebook. And maybe a few other people right around can hear the same thing. People that are trying to whisper in that person's ear as well, they can hear it. versus X, where you stand up on you're in a crowd, somebody's saying something, 100 meters up there with a megaphone, and you stand up on a soapbox with your own megaphone and issue your response. Everyone that's around you can hear in great distance. That'll weed out the people that don't want to have their communication heard wide and clear, because every response that you make has to be given as much consideration as a full-blown post. That's the beautiful thing about X that I really didn't quite enunciate, or that's not the right word. I didn't quite, I had thought that before, but I hadn't really said it so clearly. So I won't give up X. If I was to boil it down, it would be X and YouTube. If I had some courage, X and YouTube. But maybe Facebook, because Facebook is where everything starts. There's something about the wholesomeness, so to speak, of Facebook, the the connection with, you know, the people that I actually know in my life. So that would be a better workflow. Facebook to X to YouTube. Facebook to X to YouTube. Let me write that down. Wow. Facebook to X to YouTube. What chance do you think I'd have the actual courage to pull that off? Back to the mindfulness thing. One of the things that distracts me, hashtag distraction, from a more mindful life is the fact that I dilute my every sharing among so many platforms. Whittling it down to just those three would have a big step forward in terms of reducing my footprint and my distraction. I'm going to think some more about this, maybe give it some thought, and maybe even do it. Wouldn't that be a surprise? So heads up for anyone out there that if you're not already there and you want to live in an amazing world online, come on over to the X platform. It's pretty amazing. And more, that's where I think I'll be. And that I don't even say anything about Discord, because Discord is not even on the table for this. It's like my spouse, right? I mean, you don't, when you're restructuring your life. Well, some people do, but when I restructure my life, my relationship with my wife isn't even come up, because it's just it's like saying I don't want to have something to do with my left leg, right? Discord is like that. Discord is, although I'm a poor utilizer of Discord, it's as important to me as my left leg. I know that that's the most important place on the internet for me, and it's a shame that I underutilize it, and I'm not making good utilization of my time there. But I'm striving towards it. I did start doing 2 weeks ago daily office hours, 30 minutes from 10 to 10:30 a.m. Japan time, and I'm there every day. And I'm rarely there alone. Pretty much someone shows up every day. It's a very good use of time. And even if no one shows up, it's a good exercise of mindfulness. So there's that. Okay, about time to light another candle. As you can see, this one is just about burned out. I like it when it gets that low. And it's burning my finger now. Speaking of burning out, antique brass. Let's light this other one. Put this one on. Get these candles in a box of 50 for 100 yen, 75 cents at the local 100 yen store, so I can have all these candles burning, and it's wonderful. Okay, so I think I've done enough of all of talked about the mindful walk yesterday. It was a really great experience. Want more of that in my life. The creed consists of 8 objectives and 35 principles. The objectives are: number 1, to be always ready to die, to have my affairs, my relationships, and life's work in order. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of my time, to not waste my days. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions. 5 is to perform good actions relative to my values. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities. 7 is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And 8 is to keep my balance. As for principles, today I'm going to read the principle called agency and the great indifference. This principle follows quick on the heels of distraction, um, which I talked about yesterday. Distraction being the thing that we do to avoid seeing the thing that we don't want to see, which is the emptiness that pervades the universe. Agency in the great indifference is precisely that thing that we're looking to see, we're looking for, so that we don't have to perceive the what's not out there. Here we go. Agency in the great indifference opens with a quote from Charles Dickens. I looked at the stars and considered how awful it would be for a man to turn his face up to them as he froze to death, and see no help or pity in all the glittering multitude. Agency in the great indifference. Every individual life is an agent, and the products of its living are its artifacts. Subtract these away, and what's left is the vast landscape of the great indifference, characterized by an incapacity to observe or maintain any thought or opinion towards well being, an utter lack of regard towards joy or suffering, a godless backdrop of unblinking, unthinking, that is, inanimate substance and time. That's the perspective and the view that I have of the thing that I call the great indifference, the deep, empty void that pervades the universe, that mutely answers us with no response when we ask after the whereabouts of God. That's the thing that we distract ourselves from. All right. Now, the next 24 hours. Well, today's an interesting day. I'm a little bit nervous. At 3 o'clock, I have a job interview. Yeah, I applied for this company that they do English teaching. Yeah, that. The thing I didn't want to do. Um, and the way that it works is you do it online, and people have sign up for. You become like it's like a lot like YouTube, whereas where each instructor has their own channel on the platform, and there's a profile and a photo and an introduction video, and people can sign up for your lessons if they want. Lessons are 25 minutes, and you can block in time and say and have regulars if people want, and they can join you every week if they want. And there's structured lessons with curriculums and materials, and there's free conversation as well. And you can support a large range of age groups. What attracted me to it was that the flexibility of the scheduling. I can, for example, and what I'm planning to do is have a block of time from 9 a.m. to 11, a 3-hour block of time with 10 to 10:30 for office hours at Discord. So I'll keep that. But the other 25-minute blocks within that, at the top and the bottom of every hour, I'll be able to slot in students. I'm imagining that I'll get, I hope, maybe a couple of students a week, just maybe 2 or 3 lessons a day. Two would be plenty. Two lessons a day to keep this going. Now, why am I doing this? Well, I started going down this road because of my insolvency fear, the challenge that I was dealing with last week, my concern that my savings weren't going to be sufficient to get us to the start of Social Security, and I needed to consider some options, what to do to make sure that I can't. I mean, our living expenses are covered no matter what by my pension, but covering the debt that I incurred for my daughter's college it's a sizable debt. It takes a big chunk of money every month to pay that debt. Um, and I had allocated a certain amount of our retirement savings towards that, servicing the debt every month, rather than just paying it off. I'm just tackling it on the month to month, because that'll allow me to do is that'll allow me, once Social Security kicks in, we'll have plenty of funds, and I can just let Social Security continue to cover on a monthly basis the regular payments, all automatic, to pay that off, and in a few years the school debt will be paid off, and it'll all be done, and it'll feel rather harmless. That was the plan until it looked like I wasn't going to have enough money to make it at the end, because I didn't realize that the government taking 20% out of every one of my 401k distributions was foiling my plans to for solvency to Social Security, right? Because I was going to turn up 20% short, and it wasn't until now, 8 months away from that date, that I finally realized I ain't got enough money. So I was trying to think of ways to handle this, and one of the things I thought to do was to get a job, and it wouldn't take much because it turns out that we're not going to be we're not the problem isn't going to happen. It turns out we're going to be able to make it because I'm going to issue my because I'm eligible for a nice big tax refund, and I'm going to be able to do my taxes in February. The money that we have would get us to April. I'll do my taxes in February, get my refund back, and that'll take us to the end. So we're going to be okay. But when I was panicked, 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? We're going to run out of money. I mean, we're not going to run out of money to live. We'll still have our living expenses, but I'll run out of money. And what that would mean is I would default on my debt, and I don't want to do that. What am I going to do to continue servicing my debt? And I thought, well, I've got about 6 months to solve this problem because, like I said, we wouldn't have run out of money until then. Problem is solved, but it's all solved on paper, right? It looks like it's going to be solved. That's not enough for me. I don't like to have one solution. I like to have a backup. So my backup is I'm going to get a job, as humble as it might be, and I'm going to start doing stuff now, and I'm going to reserve that money aside to working, 2 classes a day every day for the next 6 months to help get us through those last few months, just in case my first plan doesn't work. So this is plan B that I'm working on. Also, I'm kind of warming to the idea of spending a couple of hours a day, Monday through Friday, actually doing something like teaching. I would be teaching right here. This would be the setting. I would be doing it on this phone. Students would be on the phone. We'd be talking, freeze talking, just like I'm doing with you right now. Same background, everybody, everything. And I've done English teaching before. I know how to do it. So I have the interview today. So I submitted, I prepared my resume. I prepared an introduction video, which wasn't hard, given I'm a YouTuber. And I sent that in to the company. The company's rather careful about who they select. They vet the application, and then if they like what you submit through your application, they'll then send you on to an interview. And my interview is today, this afternoon. So I'm a little bit nervous. All that by way of explaining about what I was gonna about my main activity for the day, which is the interview this afternoon. And hopefully I'll pass the interview and I'll get a job. And if not, I've still got my first plan. And, also, if not, that might be okay because I think there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to wind up back in America in the next month or two. And that will probably have a big impact on my ability to teach. I don't know if that'll soil that completely because if I do go back to America, it'll probably be for a long time. I mean, months or more, depending on how things go. So I'm okay with whatever happens this afternoon. But I do take things like job interviews incredibly seriously. So I'm kind of excited for that. I wonder what would happen if I drop these in there. Oops, it makes the flame go out. Sorry about that. So that's that for that. For the next 24 hours. Let's go on and read comments now. See if I can read like this. Just a sec. No, it's too much juice. Hello again, Michael Littlejohns, and happy birthday again to you. I saw that message when we first started for your 20th birthday today. And hello, Erica. And you've mentioned well wishes for the PEF day for me, and I wish the same for you. And I'm sure you're wishing that you meant that you for everybody. And Erica says hello, happy birthday to Michael. Evelyn says hi and happy birthday, Michael. Hi, Kurt, Tim, and Erica. Robert, hi, Robert, says hi to myself. Michael, happy birthday. Erica is growing and notes it's 58 degrees and a 68% humidity with an air quality index of 18 in Napanee, Ontario, Canada. Much better air today, huh? Seems like pretty good weather. Robert says, hi to Evelyn. Evelyn says hello to Robert. There's Tim. Tim says good morning. His weather check for the UK at 9:35 p.m. is 10.3 C and 90% humidity. Showery, sunny day. Showery, sunny day. That's an interesting combo. This may be politically incorrect, but my father, a very impolitically incorrect man, used to describe showery, sunny days. He'd look out the window and say, the devil's beating his wife, which I always thought was a very interesting observation. Rain on a sunny day. I'm sure he heard that from his elders, who were also very politically incorrect. I came from a very politically incorrect family, embarrassingly so. I used to be I used to be very embarrassed by the things that my family sometimes said in public. Astonishing sometimes. Gosh. Okay, Erica is maybe that's one of the reasons I'm so cautious that I rarely cuss, and I'm not. I don't know that I would necessarily call myself politically correct. I'd say I'm kind of politically neutral. I try to walk a neutral middle ground. I have opinions and I have ideas, but fortunately the stuff that I'm interested in doesn't really tread anywhere near any of the political subjects at all. So I can live my life quite politically neutral and not have to live out the way my family did. Okay, Erica. Hi, Erica says hi to Robert and Miss Evelyn. Tim says happy birthday to Michael. Erica says hi to Tim. Tim says hi to Erica and Evelyn. Robert says hello to Tim. There's Ray says good morning at 15C and 60% overcast, 60% humidity overcast in Washington State. Good to see you, Ray. Tim says hi to Robert. Evelyn says hi to Ray. Ray says hello to Evelyn and everyone. Tim says hi to Ray. Robert says hi to Ray. Elvina, hi Elvina. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. I hope you are all having a good day. Thank you, Elvina. Wish the best to you as well. Tim says hi to Elvina. Robert says hi to Elvina. Elvina says hello to Tim and Robert. Elvina says, I left Twitter X and joined Blue Sky as I like the community better. I cut back on the amount of time on Facebook and Instagram and haven't watched TV in almost 3 years. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, a lot of people left X and went over to Blue Sky. And a lot of the people that I know have vanished. Indeed, it seems like it's a movement. Kudos to you on not watching TV in almost 3 years. Speaking of which, I started doing something really that I think is really interesting about my Netflix. Are you all aware of, I'm sure you are, of the enormous cinema that is going on in India? Do you know they produce over 1,500 feature-length films a year? We only learn about them peripherally in the West because India, with over 1 billion people living there, has an enormous market. They don't need to market their cinema outside of their country, but it's incredibly good. I watched an Indian movie. It took me about 2 months to watch it because I'm a very slow watcher. That I really enjoyed about a village detective. That was kind of a fun movie. But then I enjoyed it so much that this week I started watching a drama called Serious Men that is absolutely fantastic. It's on Netflix. It's about an ambitious man who comes from the Indian underclass, businessman working in the fields of science, trying to find his way and his way for his family amongst India's caste system, right, where the residue of the caste system permeates through the modern world. And as much as the modern Indians are trying to get over that, it just doesn't quite seem to work. And he gets himself and his family into some trouble trying to find his way, work his way through that. It's a very human and very touching drama. I'll probably finish it today, given this rainy day, but it's called Serious Men. And one of the things I really like about it is that it doesn't patronize the viewer. This Indian drama, a lot of, I'm sure that some of you have felt the same way. A lot of Western drama that when it gets like intelligent, it like kind of has to add filler to like fill in the gaps to make sure that everybody's following along. You see it doing it. You're kind of when it does that sometimes in the West, I'm like you didn't need to say that. We all got it. We know what you're saying. This Indian drama doesn't do that. It assumes the intelligence of the viewer and doesn't explain the things, right? It gives it out, and it's up to you to figure out. I have to pause them and go, wait a minute, let me unwind that last scene and realize. And sometimes I'll have to have a little chat with ChatGPT because I don't understand something that the Indian people would understand about the context of their own country, that I don't get, and I learn from the process. Anyway, I'm having a great time. I think I've gone down a rabbit hole that I will enjoy now for the rest of my life, which is Indian cinema. And one more story. I was up in, I think it was Edmonton, up in Canada, and I was working there, working for I think it was Canadian Telecom. I can't remember what it was called. I was there for about a 2 week period of time where I was working with a telecommunication, one of the telecommunication companies in Canada, and that we were in Edmonton, and I was staying in a hotel. And on the weekend, I went out for dinner, and I saw a cinema. I thought, oh, I'll see a movie, and I went in. I didn't know what it was, and I went in, and it turns out it was an Indian cinema, and it was an Indian movie theater, and the movie was 4 hours long with a half hour intermission. And in the concession stand, there was no popcorn; it was all Indian snacks, and I was the only non-Indian there. And the folks welcomed me. I had stumbled in out of the like a stranger stumbling in out of the dark, and they had helped me to pick the right snacks to have. And we went in, and I had the best time. I enjoyed the movie. I couldn't understand a word. It was all in Hindi with no subtitles, and I sat there the whole 4 hours. And it was my first exposure with Indian cinema. Now this was a long, long, long time ago, even before my daughter was born. And this was back when the Indian genre that I got exposed to there was the romance with the hero and the heroine, and they would be singing alternatively, and there would be the fight scenes, and the guy would sing all macho, and the woman would sing with her beautiful, was it falsetto, her high soprano. Yeah, I can't even begin to do it. And then they would lovingly back and forth finding one another, and then there were the fight scenes, and it was great. This Serious Man is like, I mean, this is like beyond Hollywood level quality cinematography, acting, writing. Check it out. It is really good. Serious Men on Netflix. I highly recommend it. But not something I could watch with my wife. She wouldn't enjoy it. It's just not her style. Mm-hmm. And by the way, again, Elvina, I really admire anyone who can step away from the distractions of media. And your 3 years of not watching TV is that's like a huge achievement. As much as I'm enjoying my Netflix series, I think I would be much better off to give it up. I'm spending more time being mindful for sure these days. Tim says, Robert, that is, I post a great deal on X, cars and crypto with some puns and dad jokes for the most part. Are you and I not connected on X, Robert? I don't recall seeing your post, but I'm not much of a consumer of posts. I'm more of a producer of posts. Tim says, mindful walking is something I found quite addictive since retiring. It's great thinking time and time for reflection. Here, here. Elvina, yikes, my phone just screamed out an Amber Alert here in Toronto area. I hope everyone is safe. Ah, thoughts go to Toronto, and I hope they find the child. What's the alert for, Elvina? Tim. Uh, I'll see, maybe Elvina will respond. But Amber Alerts are for at least in the United States, and it sounds like they're the same up there. They're for abducted children. Often, though, what it is, and it's not just, I shouldn't say often though, it's often, often, at least in Southern California, we'd have Amber Alerts, and it would be custody battles between parents, right? And then the parent that doesn't have custody would run away or not return the child, and there would be an Amber Alert. I'm not saying that that's anything less than child abduction, but it's that kind of stuff. So, but sometimes and also sometimes it's people grabbing kids off the street, and someone gets a look at the car or the license plate number. We send out an Amber Alert, and it says we're looking for a blue Volvo station wagon. Last three digits on the license plate are XYZ, last seen going west on the 405 freeway. And what happens is that alert goes out, and everybody's like, whoa, hey, that car's right there. The 911, they call the cops. They see the car right here, and they catch the guy, save the kid. It's a good thing. All started because of a child abduction for a girl named Amber that didn't end well. Tim says, Robert, that is. Sorry, Robert. Elvina, Barclay, same thing here. I usually turn those off. Time to re-enable the developer menu. Kitsune says, hi, Kitsune. Kitsune means fox in Japanese. I think I remember you from the past. Didn't you used to like leave comments on YouTube? Um, for some reason, I remember that name. Maybe it was another Kitsune. Robert says hi to Kitsune. Kitsune says, I missed out on the stream. Well, not quite. You're still here. I'm still here. Robert says, we're all still here. Bollywood is very real, Kurt. Yeah. Tim says, the Indian film industry is like a whole hidden metropolis. It is quite amazing what films are produced in whole rash of their own film idols. No kidding, huh? I'm just discovering. Elvina says, Penguin, it looks like a missing 1-year-old child, namely parent likely parent related. Marmadi said, "Hi, Marmadi. Hello, everyone. Wishing you a good AM or PM." Well put. Good AM and PM. Elvina says, "Kurt, I sometimes watch Netflix or BritBox shows on my iPad, but not often." Robert says, "I'm not sure my FIDO key was stolen and I had an old X account tied to it. My current account is just over 2 years old." What's a FIDO key? There is talk of, Alvina says, there's talk of starting silver alerts for missing senior citizens. That's a smart idea. Robert says, "Hi, Marmadi." And Kitsune says, "Yeah, I did. Ha ha ha." I'll share with you, Alvina, an interesting anecdote that I heard uh, that I thought related to missing seniors. I was talking to someone who worked at an old age home, as I've worked at an old age home before. It's very interesting. And we were talking about how seniors sometimes go missing, right? They'll just walk out of the facility and decide to go home, right? Wherever home is, and they'll walking down the street. The senior community that this person worked at did the most clever thing, and maybe it was one of you, maybe it was somebody, not somebody I was talking about, maybe it was one of you that's here today that was telling me this story, and maybe it wasn't the place they worked at. Maybe I'm elaborating too much, but the crux of the story was the crux of it was the home. What they did was brilliant. They installed right outside the front door of the facility, where on the street, an artificial bus stop with a bench and a sign like with said bus stop sign on it, and made it very inviting to sit, and very much like a bus stop. And what would happen is, and I think every old age home around the world should do this, if someone slipped out and finally it came to their attention, hey, what happened to Jane, right? Where's Jane in room 402, right? Oh no, Jane, did she finally go home like she's been saying she wanted to go home? And they would go outside and they'd find Jane sitting on the bench at the bus stop, you know 25 feet in front of the old age home. It just worked time after time. The old person would leave the home, they'd see the bus stop, have a seat, and wait for the bus. I mean, someone should get some sort. There should be some sort of Nobel Prize for that level of creative, making the world a better place. Don't you think? Alphina says, "Kurt, what a great idea! I heard of a facility that made the resident's room door look like the former home's door." Wow, that's also really good. Tim says, I'm reading backwards now. Backwards in comments. We don't really get alerts here in the UK, although they have been trialing it with some tests recently, not fondly received well by our public. Privacy intrusion on your mobile phones, etc. Yeah, Kitsune says, yeah, I did. Ha ha ha. So it was you. See, I remember you. I remember you from that was a long time ago too. You, you, I'm glad to see you again, Kitsune. Um, I want to tell you, Tim, I don't know about you, or I think in Southern California we have this too, but here in Japan, they have earthquake alerts down to a finely tuned system. I'll be sitting here and suddenly the phone will it's a very abrupt sound, go off, and an earthquake is coming, and you got about 25 seconds to secure yourself, get outside the house, get under the door jamb, and then starts rolling. It's uncanny how these alerts come just seconds before the arrival of the earthquake. Kitsune says, I've stuck around, but in the shadows. Well, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here in whatever capacity. It's good to see you again, Kitsune. You're always welcome here. You're always welcome in comments. Hey, come hang out in Discord sometime if you want to talk face to face, or show up here in Shizuoka and let's go have a coffee or a beer or something like that. Well, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. And it's good to see you all. Look how it's light now. Yay, I can blow out the candles. Oh, those are kind of nice to look at. Mindfulness works really well staring at the candle saying, this is real. Have a great day, everybody. Penguin says, yes, Chani did a vlog on preparing for an earthquake at home. Ah, really? I love her stuff. It's great, great videos. Be safe, but not too safe, everybody. Take care. And thank you for joining me here today. It's nice to see you all, especially you, Kitsune, after all this time. Kitsune says, bye, Kurt and chat. Hope everyone has a good day and night. Robert says, thank you. And Evelyn says, bye, everyone. See you soon. And Tim, I have one more note I want to add, guys. Tim says, have a great day. Tim, great day. They're not here, but if Jim Jam Birds, if you see this, you and I were talking yesterday on the offline about Chat GPT and I was telling you about how I use Chat GPT to help me with stuff, right? I mean, I've got it trained. I trained a GPT. I forced it to read this, and I ask it questions to help me make decisions about my life, and it knows going alone, and it knows my objectives and principles and helps me. And Jim Jam Birds asked me about how I use ChatGPT to do that. I'm going to create a custom GPT that I can make public facing, like the one I just mentioned, and create an ask ChatGPT and ask going alone, basically a GPT that other people can come talk to if they want to, and it'll give you reflections and thought from the perspective of going alone. So that I wanted to thank Jim Jam Birds for our conversation yesterday, which gave me the idea that, hey, I've set up this little custom GPT to help me out with my own values. Maybe I can make point that out the outside world, put a link to it. People can talk to ChatGPT that's been trained with going alone. Thank you for that, for helping me to think about that. And by the way, Jim Jam Birds, this is your book that I'm holding up. I'm actually, because I'm currently illustrating your book for you, kind of look like what I did with Evelyn. Do you see where the page is right now? That's where I'm at right now. I'm nearly done. I've been sitting here when I have time, and I just sit here and I slowly illustrate her book. And this is the book that I'm using the last 2 weeks to read the Good Life meditation every day. So Jim Jam Birds, thank you for the idea yesterday. And your book, as soon as I get this done, I'll drop this in the mail to you, and it'll be on your way back to you. So thanks, everybody. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye bye.